I'm Jane Simpson, and I'm Chair of Indigenous Linguistics at the Australian National University, and I'm also Deputy Director of the ARC Centre of Excellence for the Dynamics of Language. I got into linguistics because I was interested in the structure of languages and how much they vary, that Aboriginal languages are very different in structure from Australian English or from Chinese or from some of the other languages I'd studied. But by going and doing field work, I got to meet a lot of Aboriginal people, and I got to learn much more about the language ecologies of where they lived. So by language ecology, I mean what were the languages that they were using on an everyday basis, what were the languages they were hearing. So in Tennant Creek, there were at least 5 or 6 Indigenous languages being used on an everyday basis in the early 1980s. And there was also a new language developing, a language which emerged from the contact between Aboriginal languages and English. So something that's now called Wumbarani English. And once you start looking at the language ecologies, you start thinking, well, where are they used? Are they used in everyday speech? Are they used in schools? Are they used in courts? And at the time, there was no recognition of Indigenous languages in schools. It was difficult to get interpreters for courts, and it was difficult to get interpreters for health services. So for me, the excitement, I guess, has been, first of all, how the structure of languages, how different they are, and secondly, how people use languages, and what we can do to support people using the languages if that's what they want to do. One of the striking things is how little data we actually have on who is speaking what language in Australia. The Australian census asks the question, what language do you speak at home? But that's one language. In many communities, people are speaking more than one language. We also have, for Indigenous languages, a massive problem of undercounting of the new languages that emerge from the contact of English with traditional languages. Very often they don't have names. If they don't have names, they don't get counted in the census. And yet the children who speak these new languages, they need support in learning English, standard English, and in going to school. So in an endeavour to get more accurate information, since about 2004, we have had the National Indigenous Languages Survey, and we are currently engaged with the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies as part of the Centre of Excellence work. We're engaged in trying to collect and analyse the data that's available on who is speaking what language among Indigenous people. And we're also trying to see whether that correlates to other factors. So does it correlate to well-being? Does it correlate to employment? Does it correlate to health aspects? So the results of this survey should be a very valuable resource, both for Indigenous people and for other policymakers working with Indigenous people to ensure that the needs and aspirations of different Indigenous communities are met.